welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I'd show you what I tend to eat in a week as a vegetarian. For reference, I am a second year law student, so I tend to be pretty busy and I only really eat meals that I can make quite quickly. And I thought I would just talk about them a little bit and then show you how I make them. I've pre-recorded all the videos of me actually making the food, so I have a list on my phone and I'm just going to talk about them now. Also, let's excuse the lighting right now. I don't really know what the situation is if I move that way or that way. I'm in absolute blinding sunlight, so I'm trying to keep my face centered in the middle, which is making my shoulders look a different colour, but excuse that. Anyway, we're going to start with katsu. So I'm going to briefly talk about it and then I will upload the footage and put a voiceover over it. So I have not had a katsu until literally this year, which I know is absolutely crazy. If you go to Wagamama's, it's probably the most commonly ordered dish there. I never even knew about it. So obviously I can't have a chicken katsu, but I can have a sweet potato katsu, and at Wagamama's they call that a yasai katsu, which is usually a mixture of sweet potatoes and I think butternut squash. Either way, love it. We went to the outlets at the O2, there's a Wagamama's there. I try it and I was instantly obsessed. Zav has been having these his whole life and is like, why have you never tried a katsu before? I don't know. So once I tried this thing and it was one of the best meals I've ever eaten, I was like, okay, let's recreate this. So I know you can buy pre-made sauces, but I'm not really a huge fan of them. So I like to prep the sauce myself. As you will see in a second with the rest of the footage, I literally make the sauce from scratch. I bread some sweet potato discs, just like little slices, like breadcrumbs, make a little batter for it, and I serve it with rice. I'm obsessed. It's one of my favourite meals. This is probably the most time consuming of all of them that I'm going to show you today, but it is by far my absolute favourite, so that's why it's the one we're starting with. So I will roll the footage now. So I start by dicing up an onion into pretty small pieces, and then I do the same to a whole carrot, and I pop them all into the pan with some sea salt flakes, and then I just mix that all together with a little bit of oil. Then I start chopping up my sweet potato, kind of try and aim for about 1 centimetre thick pieces, and yeah, just make them into these little circles. Then I fill up a cup of rice and 2 cups of water and put them into the pan. I then take 2 bowls on a plate and I fill one with milk, one with flour, but I would recommend use corn flour, it is a lot better. I just didn't have any in when I was filming this. And then cover a plate in some breadcrumbs. And then I take each of my sweet potato discs and I dip them in the milk, then into the flour or corn flour, which you should be using, then back into the milk and into the breadcrumbs. And they should be pretty well coated, and then you pop them into the air fryer. I like to put a little bit of cooking oil on them to make them extra crispy. Then I put some garam masala into my sauce and curry powder. Well, it's not really a sauce yet, but... And then add in some flour and give that a mix. And then I crumble in a vegetable stock cube. And then I add some boiling water until the whole pan's coated evenly. And then I put all of my cooked rice into these little bowls and flip them over onto the plate. Just think it looks better, but you can just scoop it out onto the plate. And then I put my sweet potatoes, once they've cooked, onto the plate. I'm just trying to make it look cute here, but put them on the plate however you like. And then I'm also plating up Zav's, which he did the exact same process that I did for the sweet potatoes with chicken. So if you're not veggie, you can do this too. And then I blend up my sauce and pour it over the sweet potatoes, rice, and in Zav's case, chicken. And when I tell you this sauce is so much better than the store-bought ones, I absolutely love it. The next dinner I like to call taco bowls. They're so easy and so quick to do, and it's another thing where if you live with someone who isn't veggie or just prefers not to have veggie stuff, you can substitute it for just some mince, and Zab usually just empties his mince into a pan so I don't have to touch it, and I will just cook it, stir it around and cook mine at the same time in a different pan next to it. So you literally will just do rice, mince. I love to add some guacamole and salsa. I usually do make my own, I'm gonna say that. I do make my own because I prefer it over store-bought. In this video, I didn't make my own because I was in a severe rush. I'm in exam season right now. But yeah, it is better to make your own, but if you want to be quick, you can just buy it pre-made. If you are buying the pre-made one, the fresh one is so much better than, you know, the Doritos salsa. I can't stand it, but the fresh one that you get from the chilled section, that is way better, so top tip. If you're not gonna make your own, use that. I also love to make my own tortilla chips. I do like store-bought ones, but for some reason when I'm pairing it with dinner, I like to make my own. By make my own, I literally just take the little tortilla wraps that we used for the tacos, and I use a pizza cutter usually because it's easier, cut them up into little triangles, pop them in the air fryer, and that's literally it. They're so easy. So I will show you how I made that next. So I start off again with 1 cup of rice and 2 cups of water, the same as I do for every time I cook rice. And then I go in with my corn mince, and I also add a little bit of water. I find it cooks better that way, and some of this seasoning and a little bit of salt. And then I just give everything a mix together. And whilst that's cooking, I cut up these wraps into little triangle shapes. They don't have to be perfect, but they just look like the chips that way. Then I put them all in the air fryer for 4 minutes on the max crisp setting. Then I go in with some tomato puree, barbecue sauce, and mix all of that in. And then I just plate it up. And then I go back in with my rice and put that on the plates too. And then the tortilla chips are done, so I take them out of the air fryer and put them onto the plates. Then for my one, I go in with some salsa and guacamole because I love it. Zav doesn't have any because he's not a fan, but here it is finished. I also went in with a little bit of salt and pepper on the rice. So the next thing, I'm literally about to go and make me and Zav for dinner right now, which is, I'm gonna call them veggie tacos. So rather than doing mince, and obviously he's not a vegetarian, so he uses normal mince, but I use veggie mince for mine, you literally just fry up the mince, remove it from the pan. So this is a 1-pan recipe as well. So fry the mince, remove it from the pan, put in 2 of the little, you know, the tiny mini wraps, they're like this sort of size. Put 2 of them in, fold them in half, fill it with some mince, then you put some cheese. I also love to add guacamole and salsa to it, just put it all inside. Obviously season the mince, forgot to mention that. Fry it, flip it over, fry the other side. I just use the tiniest spray of the 0-calorie cooking oil that you can get, so I use that and you're done. Like, it's so easy, and I sometimes serve it with potatoes. Can't remember when I cooked it in the video if I did, but literally what we're having for dinner tonight. So I start by putting a bit of corn mince into the pan. I don't know what that huge chunk was, but we took that out. Don't worry, I did use it later. Then I add some more of this peri seasoning and mix that all together. And then once it's cooked, I put it all into a separate little bowl so that I can use the pan again. Perfect for a 1-pan recipe. Then I spray a little bit of cooking oil. I fold one of the wraps in half and start filling it up with some of the mince that I've just cooked. And then I made this earlier, it's just a little bit of, well, it's not really guacamole, it's just smashed avocado with some seasoning in it. So I put a little bit of that in, and again, some salt. And then I go in with the cheese and close it up and do the exact same process for the second wrap. I use the heat setting 7 and I leave it for about 4 minutes, and then I flip them over so they're nice and crispy. And then once the second side is cooked, you are good to go. And I put them onto the plate, and here they are. Okay, the next thing is really, really simple, but I guess some people don't make it if they're veggie because they've completely forgotten. And I know, like, veggie nuggets, the corn ones, aren't the absolute best substitute for real chicken, but in a Caesar salad they actually work quite well. So literally just make a basic Caesar salad. You can put parmesan, you can put the sauce, whatever, but just make the exact same Caesar salad you usually would, but put some veggie nuggets, or you know, you can get the veggie fillets, the chicken fillets that aren't chicken, either or. Chop them up, put them in. It literally takes 5 minutes. If I do not have time to cook, this is what I'm doing, and I'll just pop them in the air fryer. The chicken is done in like 8 minutes, I'm pretty sure. 8 or 9 if you want to do crispy. And the salad, you just put it in the bowl whilst it's cooking. So that is so quick and so easy. So I usually take about 5 or 6 nuggets and pop them in the air fryer. And then whilst that cooks, I start by putting the lettuce and cucumber into the bowl. And I didn't film, but I also cut up some tomatoes and put them in the bowl too. And then I go in with some croutons. These ones I think are garlic and black pepper, they're so good. Then a little bit of salt and pepper. I love this Pizza Express Caesar dressing. I've used 2 bottles of it, it's so good. And then I chop up the chicken nuggets, well, the corn nuggets once they're done, and then go in with a little bit of grated parmesan. And there is your veggie Caesar salad. I know I pronounce it wrong. My best friend is literally Indian, so she's told me I pronounce it wrong, but I can never quite say it right. Sag paneer. So it's basically spinach and rubbery cheese. Apparently in India they call it palak paneer. I didn't know that. I've gone with sag paneer because that's what they call it at the Indian when I go and order it for takeaway. But again, had this at a takeaway, was like, oh, I need to know how to make this. And then I learned to make it myself. We have this at least once a week because it is so quick and so easy. Literally boil some rice, fry some onions and garlic, add in a whole bag of spinach, just mix it all together and add in your seasonings. Then I blend it up with just like a handheld blender and you're ready to go. We also have the poppadoms and mango chutney. I have made mint sauce a couple of times, but that just adds to the complicatedness of these, so I won't show you to do that on here. But yeah, let me just quickly show you how I did that. I start by dicing up this whole block of paneer. Again, this serves 2 people, but it is a lot of cheese. So I slice that into little tiny slices, about 1 centimeter each way. Then I dice up an onion and I pop it into the pan with some garlic, pepper, salt, garam masala and cumin. And then I put all of my spinach in. And that whole bag of spinach cooks down to this little paste, and then I go in with my blender until it looks like this, and then I put the paneer in, which I've just got out the air fryer. I add a little bit of milk and a whole bunch of nutritional yeast, which is what gives it the cheesy flavour. I love the taste of nutritional yeast. And then I put my rice on the plate and get out the sag paneer, and there it is. The last thing isn't really a dinner, but I've been obsessed with it recently, and I actually made them at the weekend on Easter. I made 25 of them, which was kind of stressful, but that shows how easy they are to make if I can survive making 25 of them at once. They are literally just American pancakes, but I use the normal like BBC Good Foods recipe. But if you swap out half of the milk for a protein Greek yogurt, it is the absolute best pancakes that I've ever had. And they're so fluffy. Like, for whatever reason, the Greek yogurt literally doubles the thickness. They're so good. And yeah, I will show you that as well. And I think this is the last thing. I start by whisking an egg. If you're doing more, you would do 2 eggs, but then I add my milk and my Greek yogurt. This isn't the protein one, but it's still really good. And then add some sugar and baking powder, mix that all together again. Then I put a little bit of oil in my pan, and I do about 3 tablespoons for each pancake. That makes the perfect size for me. And then I flip it over. You can see just how fluffy these are and how much they rise when you cook them. And I like to put them under some tin foil to keep them warm. And then some Nutella and raspberries. And here's Aviz enjoying the pancakes. So that is everything for now. Let me know if there's anything else that you want to see. I obviously cook a whole lot more than this, but this was just what I could film, like the 5 days of the week when I'm at uni. If I'm honest, this was a very short video. I'm sorry for how short this was, but I am so busy right now and I'm getting ready to go to Greece. So next week's video, I'm going to be showing you my last week as a second year student. And then the week after, I am packing and heading to Greece. So I'm very excited for that. So from now on, I'm basically going to be doing weekly uploads. Well, excluding next week, my weekly uploads until October are going to be travel videos. So I've got back-to-back Greece, then Poland, then Croatia, then Paris. And yeah, that literally takes me out of weekly vlogs until October. So all of other like lifestyle videos of being in London, anything else that I do, I've got some exciting stuff planned, but they will be like a bonus. Like I'll be doing those on a Wednesday if I've done something interesting that week. But if there isn't a lifestyle video that week, there will be a guaranteed Sunday travel video. So I hope you're as excited as I am for that. And I will see you next week for my last week of uni vlog.